George Russell is clear about one thing: the first 5 laps of the W16 will decide everything. But has Mercedes made the right changes, or will it suffer the same problems of the past? Before I tell you what is known, tell me in the comments. Do you think the W16 will be able to compete with Red Bull this year? Because if this works, Formula One could have a new title contender in 2025. Will it be enough? Mercedes has been working intensively on redefining the aerodynamic concept of its car. The mistakes made with the W13, W14 and W15 have served as a basis for understanding which aspects cannot be repeated. The technical team has implemented structural modifications to the design of the W16 with the aim of improving consistency on track and offering George Russell a tool that allows him to compete on equal terms against Red Bull and Ferrari. The first fundamental change is in the aerodynamics of the car. Since 2022, Mercedes has experimented with different approaches to the design philosophy of its chassis, but none has managed to be completely competitive. This year, they have opted for a model that prioritizes stability in low-speed corners, a critical point in the performance of its previous cars. Simulations carried out during the preseason have revealed that the car's new floor generates 12% more downforce compared to its predecessor, allowing greater efficiency without compromising straight-line speed. Another key aspect of the W16's development has been the elimination of the problem of porpoising, an aerodynamic oscillation that severely affected Mercedes in 2022 and which, although reduced in subsequent years, continued to represent a challenge. To address this, they have introduced an adjustable diffuser geometry, something that until now the team had not fully explored. This system optimizes airflow based on the angle of the car and improves traction under acceleration without affecting stability under heavy braking. During private testing at Silverstone, Russell confirmed that the W16 offered a more predictable response in technical sectors, suggesting that the implementation of this new design is yielding positive results. Mercedes has also taken measures on the structure of the front wing, seeking greater efficiency in managing the air flowing around the car. The distribution of the end plates has been redesigned and adjustments have been made to the aerodynamic profiles to improve downforce without generating unnecessary drag. This has improved stability on corner entry, a factor that has been a weakness in recent years. Another of the most relevant changes is the new rear axle configuration. The key is to optimize the aerodynamic flow to the rear tires, reducing turbulence and allowing better traction on corner exit. The W16 has active cooling channels in the rear suspension, a system that regulates the temperature of the tires through electronic gates that adjust the amount of air that circulates to them. In internal tests, an 8 degrees Celsius reduction in the average temperature of the rear tires has been recorded during long stints, which translates into an 18% longer lifespan. George Russell has been clear in his first impressions of the W16. He has highlighted that the car offers greater predictability and that the feeling of grip in slow corners has improved considerably compared to its predecessor. However, he stressed that there is still work to be done in terms of overall balance, especially on circuits where traction and tire wear play a key role. Mercedes has learned from past mistakes and has opted for a more pragmatic approach in developing its new car. The changes implemented in the W16 seek to offer a more stable car, with greater aerodynamic efficiency and better management of tire wear. The question is whether these advances will be enough to close the gap with Red Bull and Ferrari. The first races of the season will be decisive in assessing whether this evolution of the aerodynamic concept really puts Mercedes in the fight for the championship. Mercedes has understood that the difference between being competitive or falling behind does not lie only in engine power or downforce, but in the small details that affect consistency in the race. The key to the W16 being successful is not only in pure speed, but in its ability to maintain a stable performance throughout a Grand Prix. To achieve this, the team has made significant improvements to thermal management, suspension and the interaction of the car with the tires. One of the critical points that Mercedes has sought to address is tire degradation. In 2024, the W15 suffered from excessive wear on the rear compounds, forcing conservative strategies and reducing the chances of attacking in the race. To correct this problem, the W16 incorporates an active cooling system in the rear suspension. This technology regulates tire temperature using electronic dampers that adjust the airflow, allowing the average temperature to be reduced by 8 degrees Celsius during extended stints. Simulator testing has shown that this change could extend tire life by 18%, resulting in less performance drop and greater strategic flexibility during Grand Prix. Another of the most important changes is to the suspension. In previous seasons, Mercedes experimented with the zero-pod concept, a design philosophy that ended up creating more problems than benefits. For 2025, the team has opted for a more conventional approach, but with key innovations. The new suspension system features real-time deformation sensors that monitor the lateral and vertical forces acting on the car. This information is fed back to the driver in real time, allowing George Russell to adjust his driving style to maximize performance at every stage of the lap. The revised suspension has also proven to be more efficient at absorbing irregularities in the road surface, which is essential at circuits with banked corners such as Silverstone or Suzuka. In internal testing, a 15% improvement in the stability of the car on uneven surfaces has been recorded, which translates into greater confidence for the driver in high downforce conditions. The balance of the car has also been a focus of work. In previous seasons, the W15 tended to lose stability at the rear when fuel levels dropped, which affected performance in the second half of races. To correct this, Mercedes has optimized the weight distribution and worked on a new braking map configuration. The car now maintains greater stability under heavy braking, allowing Russell to attack with more confidence in the final stages of the race without compromising tire degradation. The combination of these improvements suggests that the W16 will not only be a faster car in qualifying, but will be able to maintain its performance more consistently during the race. Mercedes has identified the weak points that limited its performance in previous seasons and has implemented specific solutions for each problem. Now, the key will be to see if these improvements translate into a real advantage on the track. The theory is promising, but the first few races will determine whether they have really found the formula to fight for victories again. Mercedes has understood that the mistakes of the past cannot be repeated if they want to get back into the fight for the championship. The lack of consistency in the performance of the W13, W14 and W15 was not only due to design problems, but also to deficiencies in the team's working methodology. For the development of the W16, they have implemented a more preventative approach, based on predicting failures before they occur on track. The first key change has been the integration of more advanced simulations into the development process. During pre-season, Mercedes has carried out more than 1,200 hours of simulations, analyzing the behavior of the car on the 22 circuits on the calendar. Unlike previous years where they relied heavily on the correlation between the wind tunnel and the track, they have now incorporated predictive machine learning models to anticipate possible instabilities in the aerodynamic balance according to different fuel levels and load configurations. This approach has made it possible to identify errors that, in previous seasons, were only detected during the first races, when it was too late to make significant changes. Another problem that Mercedes has tried to solve is the lack of flexibility in the development of the car throughout the season. In recent years, the changes introduced to the car have not always improved overall performance, and in some cases have generated new problems. To avoid this, they have adopted a modular design, inspired by the philosophy used by McLaren in 2024. Now, key components such as the rear wing, floor and side pods have been designed independently, allowing specific modifications without having to alter the entire structure of the car. This new methodology reduces the time needed to introduce improvements by 30% and allows the W16 to adapt more easily to the particularities of each circuit. Managing the car's balance has also been a priority in this redesign process. In previous seasons, the car tended to lose stability on certain tracks when fuel levels varied, affecting performance in long stints. To remedy this, Mercedes has optimized weight distribution and worked on a new suspension setup that maintains the car's stability without compromising traction. George Russell has been actively involved in these modifications, providing detailed feedback to the engineers on how to improve the car's response at every stage of the lap. Another key aspect of this new working philosophy has been the collaboration between the engineering team and the technology suppliers. Toto Wolff has highlighted that they can now predict with 92% accuracy how the car will react to different setup configurations, which represents a considerable advance compared to the 75% accuracy they had last year. This level of accuracy in simulations means that the data obtained in the simulator is much more representative of what will happen on track, reducing the margin of error and improving the team's ability to make strategic decisions during race weekends. The combination of these changes represents a change of mentality within Mercedes. Rather than reacting to problems when they have already arisen, they have designed the W16 with a preventative approach that allows them to anticipate any potential weaknesses before they affect performance on track. The first few races will be key to determining whether this new working methodology yields the expected results and whether Mercedes has finally found its way back into the championship fight. Mercedes begins a new era in Formula One with a completely renewed lineup. The departure of Lewis Hamilton has left George Russell as the team's absolute leader, and with it, the responsibility of guiding the development of the W16 and bringing Mercedes back into the championship fight. At his side will be Andrea Kimi Antonelli, a young talent who has been promoted directly from Formula 2. This combination of experience and youth creates a completely different scenario within the team, where the hierarchy and work dynamics will be redefined as the season progresses. Russell has proven to be a meticulous driver, with a great ability to interpret car data and translate it into concrete improvements in his driving style. In 2024, they have increased their involvement in simulation sessions by 40%, seeking to optimize key aspects such as tire management and the stability of the car in a variety of track conditions. This level of engagement has been instrumental in the development of the W16, with their feedback allowing the team to fine-tune the car's setup from an early stage. One of the areas where Russell has placed the greatest emphasis is on optimizing qualifying mode. In previous seasons, Mercedes struggled to extract maximum performance from the car on a fast lap, leaving them at a disadvantage to Red Bull and Ferrari on the grid. For 2025, they have worked on a system that prioritizes optimal tire warm-up, ensuring they reach the ideal temperature window just in time for the lap. In simulated testing, this improvement has reduced the margin for error in qualifying sessions and ensured the car performs at its best at key moments. Russell's leadership will also be reflected in the team's strategic decisions during races. In 2024, Mercedes adopted a conservative approach in the opening laps, which on many occasions prevented it from gaining positions at the start. Russell has insisted that this mentality must change and that it is necessary to be more aggressive when conditions allow. The team has worked on simulations to analyze different start scenarios and define clear parameters that allow Russell to make quick decisions without compromising his long-term strategy. On the other hand, Andrea Kimi Antonelli's debut raises expectations and doubts at the same time. Despite his impressive rise through the lower categories, he has never driven a Formula One car in race conditions, which is a challenge in his adaptation process. Mercedes has designed a specific development program for Antonelli, combining sessions in the simulator with open-track testing. The data obtained so far shows that his performance in simulations has been competitive, achieving times within 0.8% of Russell's records in long runs. However, his lack of experience in real race conditions could count against him during the early stages of the championship. The Mercedes technical team has made it clear that Antonelli will need at least 5 or 6 races to find his rhythm and fully adapt to the demands of Formula One. In the meantime, his main role will be to learn as much as possible from Russell and use each practice session to close the gap with the more experienced drivers. In terms of car development, his initial contribution will be limited, as the team will rely primarily on the information provided by Russell to fine-tune the car's setup. The combination of an established driver and a rookie with great potential creates an interesting scenario within Mercedes. Russell will be challenged to lead the team both on and off the track, while Antonelli will need to prove that he is ready to compete at the highest level. The key will be how quickly they can find an efficient working dynamic that allows them to maximize the performance of the W16 and consolidate Mercedes as a serious contender in the 2025 season. Mercedes has reached a decisive point in its history within Formula One. After several seasons of uncertainty, constant adjustments and promises of evolution that were not reflected on the track, the W16 represents its last great opportunity to regain its place at the top before the arrival of the new regulations in 2026. Every detail has been analyzed, every mistake from the past has been studied, and every aspect of the car has been refined in the hope of closing the gap with Red Bull and Ferrari. The aerodynamic changes, the redesign of the suspension, the improvement in the thermal management of the tires, and the new approach to the development of the car have all been implemented with a clear objective: to achieve a more stable, predictable, and competitive car throughout the entire season. But although on paper everything indicates that Mercedes has taken a step forward, the real test will come in the first races. This is where it will be seen whether the improvements in simulations and private testing translate into real performance on the track. George Russell faces the biggest challenge of his career. With Lewis Hamilton's departure, he must not only assume leadership within the team, but also prove that he has the ability to guide Mercedes back into the fight for victories. He has worked harder than ever on the preparation of the car, has perfected his driving style, and has directly influenced the development of the car. Now, the question is whether all that effort will be reflected in the results. Andrea Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, begins his journey in Formula One in a challenging scenario. His talent is undeniable, but the lack of experience in the category will force him to adapt quickly to an environment in which there is no room for error. Mercedes has placed its trust in him, but his true impact on the team will depend on how quickly he can approach Russell's level and contribute to the evolution of the W16 throughout the season. Formula One waits for no one. If Mercedes wants to become a winning team again, it must prove it from the very first race. The first 5 laps of the season will be crucial, not only for the performance of the W16, but also for setting the tone for the entire year. Will this new approach be enough to challenge Red Bull and Ferrari? Can Mercedes regain its position as a title contender? Or will this be another year of frustration and tinkering that doesn't quite pay off? The answers will come soon enough. If you have any questions, share them in the comments. And if you want to be up to date with every detail of the 2025 Formula One season, subscribe, because what's coming in the next few races could completely change the fight for the championship.